they'll start in the morning, hopefully get second talk to it.
Can't get rid of that box. Already. Good morning, everyone. We will call to order the October Peace Officer Standard and Training Commission Committee meeting. Mr. Mines, if you would, we'll do a roll call. Make sure we have a quorum.
Commissioner Bello.
You're muted.
I think you're muted, sir.
Present.
Commissioner Birchfield. Commissioner Cherry.
Here.
Commissioner Dunbar. Commissioner Ferris.
Here.
Commissioner Faulkner.
Here.
Commissioner Forrester.
Here.
Commissioner Halsey.
Trying to ask him.
Halsey's here.
Commissioner Jackson.
Here.
Commissioner Russell.
Here.
Commissioner Wagner.
Here.
Commissioner Wright.
Here.
Commissioner Pardon.
Here.
And Chairman Spangler.
Here.
We have one, sir.
Thank you very much. Yes,
Let me read them. Let me read the statement of necessity first.
Okay.
As there is not a physical quorum present, a statement of necessity will be read into the record and filed with the Tennessee Secretary of State as required by statute pursuant to TCA 844-108B2, which states if a physical quorum is not present at the location of a meeting of a governing body, then in order for a quorum of members to participate by electronic or other means of communication, the governing body must make a determination that a necessity exists. Furthermore, this is the determination, by the commission as follows. Due to the impossibility of having a quorum of members physically present and the immediate need of the Tennessee Peace Officer Standards and Training Commission to certify the eligibility of law enforcement officers to receive the salary supplement payments pursuant to TCA 388111. The Post Commission believes a necessity exists that requires this meeting to be held by electronic or other means of communication. The matters to be considered by the Post Commission at this meeting require timely action by the Post Commission. Further, physical presence by a quorum of the members of the Post Commission is not practical due to the current COVID-19 pandemic and Governor Lee's Executive Order number 60, which has extended until October 28, 2020. Executive Order number 16, as extended by Executive Orders number 34 and 51, which temporarily permit safe, open, and transparent public meetings to be conducted via electronic means to preserve and increase the containment of COVID-19. Post Commission members are currently unable to attend the meeting in person, and participation by a quorum of the members of the Post Commission by electronic or other communication means is therefore necessary.
thank you, Mr. Director. If all of you will please look at your agenda, we have one change on it, and I'll entertain any other changes if anybody has one on page 3. The Tennessee Department of Safety, Lance Owen McAmis, that one is to be removed. He has resigned. And that's the only change I have. Does anyone else have a change to the agenda? And if not, I'll entertain a motion to adopt the agenda as mentioned.
So moved.
I'll second.
We'll have a motion and a second to approve. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. I guess we need to do a roll call, don't we?
Yes.
Aye.
Sorry, we'll have to do a roll call.
Commissioner Bello.
Aye.
Commissioner Burchfield, Commissioner Cherry,
Aye.
Commissioner Dunbar, Commissioner Ferris,
Aye.
Commissioner Faulkner,
Aye.
Commissioner Forrester,
Aye.
Commissioner Halsey, Commissioner Halsey, Commissioner Jackson,
Aye.
Commissioner Wagner,
Aye.
Commissioner Russell,
Aye.
Commissioner Wright,
Aye.
Commissioner Pardon,
Aye.
Chairman Spangler.
Aye.
Commissioner Halsey was trying to answer there. I feel like he's froze.
He was trying to get unmuted and it didn't work. He's still talking. He's still muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm sorry, I was aye on that.
Yes, sir.
All right. Motion passes. Okay, any other administrative matters?
You did adopt the agenda, but I'm gonna have some new business at the end of the
Okay.
meeting. Just to ask for permission to explore something.
All
No other matters.
Or the matters? All right, if everyone would please review, if you haven't already, look over the previous month's minutes, and I'll entertain a motion to approve those unless somebody has a change.
Commissioner, I've reviewed and I see no errors. I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Wright and a second by Commissioner Bello. Roll call.
Commissioner Bello,
Aye.
Commissioner Cherry,
Aye.
Commissioner Dunbar, Commissioner Ferris,
Aye.
Commissioner Faulkner,
Aye.
Commissioner Forrester,
Aye.
Commissioner Halsey,
Aye.
Commissioner Jackson,
Aye.
Commissioner Russell,
Aye.
Commissioner Wagner,
Aye.
Commissioner Wright,
Aye.
Commissioner Pardon,
Aye.
Chairman Spangler.
Aye.
So moved.
The ayes have it. Thank you. Next, we'll have Mr. Director, if you'll read the declaration, please.
All post commissioners have previously agreed to recuse themselves from any vote that would constitute a conflict of interest. The most obvious of these would include issues that involve our own departments or some we know personally. Because we've already agreed to this, it should be noted that on routine matters, it will be assumed non-verbally that these commissioners have abstained from that vote. In bigger, more controversial issues that may have more overt conflict of interest, that may have an appearance of impropriety, those applicable commissioners will still verbally abstain from those votes.
Thank you, sir. All right, moving on with our agenda, appearing before the commission, waivers for pre-employment requirements.
McMinnville Police Department requests a conviction waiver for Dwayne Stewart, hired September 28, 2020. On December 8, 1999, Mr. Stewart was charged with DUI. On December 8, 1999, Mr. Stewart pled guilty to the offense of DUI. Stewart has since satisfied all court-ordered fines and fees. Somebody's appearing.
Somebody here from McMinnville Police Department.
I'm playing with my Memorial Police Department. I have Officer Dwayne Stewart in the room with me.
Turn your volume.
We'll have to get you to turn your volume up or closer to the microphone. We can barely hear you.
Oh, no. Can you hear us any better now?
That's better.
Okay, thank you.
If you'd state your name, please, and give us a little bit more history.
Yes, this is Deputy Chief Michael Lane. Dwayne Stewart applied to the Manual Police Department in July of this year and performed admirably through the interview and testing process. Upon pre-employment background check, it was disclosed that Mr. Stewart had been charged and convicted of DWI in December of 1999 in the state of Iowa for what it appeared to be a routine traffic stop. Court documents from that state have showed that all fines, court costs, and obligations have the conviction have been satisfied. No other convictions can be found on Mr. Stewart and has a clean Tennessee driving record to date. Mr. Stewart was conditionally hired by the Memorial Police Department on September 28th. He has an exemplary military service, and he displays a strong desire to serve the community and pursue law enforcement career. The Memorial Police Department respectfully requests a waiver of this conviction.
All right, thank you, Chief. Any questions from the commissioners?
I have a question.
Commissioner Halsey?
Thank you. Chief, what was the intoximeter reading? What did he blow on the machine?
I have Mr. Stewart in the room. Could you answer that for him?
I don't have the exact number, but the officer that was involved, the state trooper, I blew just barely over, and because of that, that's where he took me in. He did, when I talked to him, he did state that I was being very cooperative, and that the intoximeter is a reason that I was convicted, because the roadside sobriety tests were good. But he said he did determine, he's like, hey, you blew just barely over. I don't have a choice. I have to arrest you. And that's where it went from there. As to exact reading, I do not have it. It was never put in the report. I don't think, because I got all the court documents, which you have there.
Thank you.
Commissioner Russell's got a question.
Go ahead, Commissioner Russell.
Two questions for Officer Stewart. Could you tell us the events surrounding the arrest, and was you charged with anything else?
I was not charged with anything else. So here's the events surrounding the arrest. So it was on the border of the state of Illinois and the state of Iowa. So what happened was a vehicle swerved into my lane, and I swerved to avoid that vehicle. The vehicle continued onto the state of Illinois, and I stayed in the state of Iowa. So the officer's reason for that stop was to make sure that I was okay. And upon talking to me, he stated that he did smell a little bit of alcohol, and he asked if I would consent to roadside sobriety, which I did. And like I said, the events progressed from there. And upon the PBT, roadside PBT, he said, you're right at the limit. I've got to take you in. And at that point, I was arrested.
And how many years ago has this been?
21. It was December of 1999.
I'll make the motion to approve it.
Commissioner Wright, second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Russell to approve and seconded by Commissioner Wright. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call.
Commissioner Bello,
Whose battery's running low? I think it's yours. Who clicked that just now?
can I not hear me? Mine's not.
Shouldn't be.
Did it disappear? Thank you.
Went away. It went away.
Your master computer.
Stand by, everyone. We'll be right back.
Commissioner Bello,
I'm looking for, I don't think I am. Let me stop sharing. Can you hear me now? Let me try now. Commissioner Bello?
Aye.
Commissioner Birchfield? Commissioner Cherry?
Aye.
Commissioner Ferris? Commissioner Faulkner?
Aye.
Commissioner Forrester?
Aye.
Commissioner Halsey?
No.
No.
Commissioner Jackson?
Aye.
Commissioner Russell?
Aye.
Commissioner Wagner?
Aye.
Commissioner Wright?
Aye.
Commissioner Pardon?
Aye.
Chairman Spangler?
Aye,
Motion carries, sir.
and the motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you. Thank you.
And moving on to waiver to attend another academy.
Collierville Police Department requests a waiver to change academies for Robert Earl Weaver, hired July 6, 2020. Mr. Weaver attended the Memphis Police Training Academy, but was unable to graduate due to a physical injury he received during defensive tactics training. The Collierville Police Department is requesting a waiver for Mr. Weaver to change academies to attend Shelby County Sheriff's Office Training Academy, scheduled to begin November 16, 2020.
Is there anyone here speaking on behalf of Collierville Police Department?
Yes, sir. Good morning, Commissioners. This is Lieutenant Draper with the Carville Police Department. As mentioned in the agenda, we are requesting a waiver for Officer Weaver Jr. to attend another academy. He's been employed with us since July 6th, attended the academy September 14th. He later on sustained a injury during physical training at Firearms Week. The Memphis Police Department Firearms Unit stated that he only could miss 1 day of that week before he would be timed out. He was unable to get cleared medically within that 1 day of missing, so therefore he timed out. We were later notified by our sister agency, Shelby County, of a upcoming academy. Therefore, we are requesting a waiver for him to be granted that to attend another academy so we can get him on the streets, especially with the unknown certainties with COVID that is affecting everybody here in the state and nationwide.
Thank you. Any questions from the commissioners?
Commissioner Russell, motion to approve.
I'll second.
I have a motion to approve by Commissioner Russell and a second by Commissioner Bello. Roll call.
Commissioner Bello?
Aye.
Commissioner Cherry?
Aye.
Commissioner Ferris?
Aye.
Commissioner Faulkner?
Aye.
Commissioner Forrester?
I want to abstain.
Commissioner Halsey?
Aye.
Commissioner Jackson?
Aye.
Commissioner Russell?
Aye.
Commissioner Wagner?
Aye.
Commissioner Wright?
Aye.
Commissioner Pardon?
Aye.
And Chairman Spangler?
Aye,
So moved.
and it passes. Thank you, Lieutenant.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Moving on.
Mr. Chair, these next three are fairly administrative, so I'll just read through them. Waivers of basic training or specialized substitution in regards to transition school acceptance, waiver of basic training. We administratively approved 10 to be put in the next transition school. There were no waivers of in-service requested. There were 6 waivers of the 6-month rule requested and were administratively approved under the governor's executive order. And next is the waiver of the 6-month rule to keep officers in compliance. Clarksville Police Department requests a 6-month waiver for Valerie Eugenia Banks, hired December 1st, 2019. In July 2020, Ms. Banks attended TLETA Basic School. Ms. Banks was unable to complete the program due to a failure to pass the driving track qualification. On November 21st, Ms. Banks will be returning to TLETA to complete that training, so she needs a 6-month waiver.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Roll call.
Commissioner Bello,
Aye.
Commissioner Cherry,
Aye.
Commissioner Ferris,
Aye.
Commissioner Faulkner,
Aye.
Commissioner Forrester,
Aye.
Commissioner Halsey,
Aye.
Commissioner Jackson,
Aye.
Commissioner Russell,
Aye.
Commissioner Wagner,
Aye.
Commissioner Wright, Commissioner Pardon,
Aye.
Chairman Spangler.
Aye. The motion passes. Thank you all. Moving on, it looks like it's going to go fairly quick. We have no report on waivers or 8-month rule waiver. Waiver for medical, we have none. No waivers for military leave. And application for training officer, there are none. Well, we have 2 applicants
And they make the same.
and they met the standards. So I guess the only thing that we need to at least vote on will be the application for training officer on this. And
Yeah, there
Motion
were
to approve.
2 applications for training officer that were in order. I think you do them collectively. There's
Wright make a
also,
motion.
oh, okay,
Russell, second.
got a motion second.
got a motion and a second. That's the motion by Commissioner Wright and seconded by Commissioner Russell. And that will be for the 2 applications for training officer.
Commissioner Bello,
Aye.
Commissioner Cherry,
Aye.
Commissioner Ferris, Commissioner Faulkner,
Aye.
Commissioner Forrester,
Aye.
Commissioner Halsey,
Aye.
Commissioner Jackson,
Aye.
Commissioner Russell,
Aye.
Commissioner Wagner, Commissioner Wright, Commissioner Pardon,
Aye.
and Chairman Spangler.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you. Applications for certified instructor.
Post investigators reviewed and approved 11 applications for certified instructor, and they appear to be in order. However, 1 officer needs a waiver of the 1-year training officer requirement. Bean Station Police Department, Joshua David Petticord.
I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion to
Second.
approve by Commissioner Bello and seconded by Commissioner Wagner. Roll call.
Commissioner Bello,
Aye.
Commissioner Cherry,
Aye.
Commissioner Ferris,
Aye.
Commissioner Faulkner,
Aye.
Commissioner Forrester,
Aye.
Commissioner Halsey,
Aye.
Commissioner Jackson,
Aye.
Commissioner Russell,
Aye.
Commissioner Wagner, Commissioner Wright, Commissioner Pardon,
Aye.
and Chairman Spangler.
Aye. And passes. Thank you. All right, moving on, our curriculum and test, specialized training curriculum.
Post investigators reviewed and approved 92 in-service and specialized training classes this month as they appear to be in order and meet or exceed minimum standards set forth by Post Commission. They have made note of these, of any deficiencies. Or they meet all the mandatory requirements, excuse me.
I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
I'll second.
So moved by, motion to approve by Commissioner Halsey. I'm sorry, who was seconded? Bello? Commissioner Bello, I'm sorry.
Commissioner Bello.
Roll call.
Commissioner Bello,
Aye.
Commissioner Cherry,
Aye.
Commissioner Ferris,
Aye.
Commissioner Faulkner,
Aye.
Commissioner Forrester,
Aye.
Commissioner Halsey,
Aye.
Commissioner Jackson,
Aye.
Commissioner Russell,
Aye.
Commissioner Wagner,
Aye.
Commissioner Wright,
Aye.
Commissioner Pardon,
Aye.
and Chairman Spangler.
Aye.
Aye.
And it passes. Thank you all. Moving on, looks like we have no old business to report. And we'll move on to our new business for discussion.
Christian Brothers University, Police Department, any agency, an agency representative, excuse me, I'm tongue-tied today, is present to appear before the commission regarding late paperwork submission. October 28th, 2019, Chester Allen Striplin was hired as a full-time officer and Post did not receive the required pre-employment paperwork until October 5th, 2020.
Representative from Christian Brothers University.
Yes, this is Chief Chester A. Striplin.
Yes, sir. Could you let the commission know about the failure to, on the paperwork?
We did. We were in discussions with commission back in May. The history behind this is that we had a post-compliance officer here that submitted the paperwork back in January 9th. And what, I guess he didn't follow up on it. So when I did the audits on our personnel files in May, I noticed that my compliance letter wasn't in my file. So when we filed up on it and did some research, what came back was that the live scan report that I did on my fingerprints had everything on it except an FBI number. So in retrospect to that, what I did was went on ahead and we contacted the Post and decided we're going to send the fingerprint cards in the TBI to be evaluated at that point instead of going through a live scan. So when we got the TBI fingerprint cards back, they verified everything, then we resubmitted the application.
All right, thank you. Mr. Mines?
We have all the paperwork now. Apparently it was rejected the first time and they just failed to resubmit it so we could process it. But we do have it all now.
Okay. Any questions from the commissioners? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Who was that second?
I got a motion.
Ed Jackson.
Okay. Got a motion by Commissioner Bell and seconded by Commissioner Jackson. Roll call.
Commissioner Bello,
Aye.
Commissioner Cherry,
Aye.
Commissioner Ferris,
Aye.
Commissioner Faulkner,
Aye.
Commissioner Forrester,
Abstain.
Commissioner Halsey,
Aye.
Commissioner Jackson,
Aye.
Commissioner Russell,
Aye.
Commissioner Wagner,
Aye.
Commissioner Wright,
Aye.
Commissioner Pardon,
Aye.
Chairman Spangler.
Aye.
Passes, sir.
And passes.
Hey, Chair.
Thank you.
Or
Yes.
Have y'all got me now?
Yes, we've got you.
I've been on this thing the whole time. I've been having trouble with the volume on this thing.
That mute button.
Commissioner Dunbar.
Yes.
Dunbar.
All right, moving on.
Hancock County Sheriff's Office, an agency representative is attending to appear before the commission regarding late paperwork for Dakota Lane Trent, graduated Walter State Police Academy in May 19th, 2020. Post did not receive Mr. Trent's pre-employment paperwork until October 9th, 2020.
Thank you. A representative from Hancock County Sheriff's Office, if you'll state your name, please.
Morning, Commission. My name is Deputy Eric Scott with the Hancock County Sheriff's Office.
Deputy, can you give us a little bit of history on, or at least what happened?
Yes, sir, I can. During our fall in-service for firearms in September, I was seeking to obtain the post number for the applicant. It was at that time that I realized that the applicant did not have the applicant number on file. We sought to get the application number from his files from the Walter State Community College as well as through the Post Commission, and I spoke with Investigator Mons. He informed me that they had no record of the applicant's information being submitted through Post. As a result, I submitted the applicant's information. During the course of my investigation, I learned that the applicant was originally hired as a correctional officer with our agency. And then in February, he was funded to go through the academy class at Walter State Community College through a grant. But that grant did not go through. It was pulled. And as a result, we had to fund his attendance. So there appeared to be some miscommunication with the documentation of who was going to submit the information for the applicant, whether it was going to go through Walter State Community College or through us, and it was never submitted. Upon getting the information together, I submitted the information and have received a post number for the applicant.
Thank you. Mr. Mines.
We do have all the information now.
Commissioners, we do have the information. Any questions from the commissioners?
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion to approve by Commissioner Halsey and seconded by Commissioner Pardon. Roll call.
Commissioner Billow.
Aye.
Commissioner Cherry.
Aye.
Commissioner Dunbar. Commissioner Ferris.
Aye.
Commissioner Faulkner.
Aye.
Commissioner Forrester.
Aye.
Commissioner Halsey.
Aye.
Commissioner Jackson.
Aye.
Commissioner Russell.
Aye.
Commissioner Wagner.
Aye.
Commissioner Wright.
Aye.
Commissioner Pardon.
Aye.
Chairman Spangler.
Aye. That passes. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Moving on.
Metro Nashville Police Department, an agency representative is present to appear before the commission regarding late paperwork submission. On August 6, 2020, Michael Lawrence Foster graduated from the Metro Nashville Basic Academy. Post did not receive Mr. Foster's pre-employment paperwork until October 8, 2020.
I see the representative from Metro Nashville. If you'll state your name, please, and give us a little bit of explanation.
Yes, sir. Good morning. My name is Deputy Chief Loki. The officer in question signed his post application the same day that we gave him a conditional offer, which was October 2019. We did believe that we submitted that through ACADIS, but it appears that it did not take. We've rectified this with two solutions. One is that we'll do the quality insurance. We'll go back and make sure anything that we do input to ACADIS, it has been accepted. And then we will also make sure that when we have applicants, we'll only have them do the post application a couple of days before the start date of the academy.
Thank you, Deputy Chief. Mr. Mines?
We do now have their paperwork, and feedback from the date.
Okay, so all paperwork is accounted for and in hand. Any questions from the commissioner?
Motion
Commissioner,
approved.
I'll go by what I heard first. Commissioner Russell.
Second.
Motion to approve and seconded by Commissioner Parton. Roll call.
Commissioner Billow,
Aye.
Commissioner Cherry,
Aye.
Commissioner Dunbar,
Aye.
Commissioner Ferris, Commissioner Faulkner,
Aye.
Commissioner Forrester,
aye.
Commissioner Halsey,
Aye.
Commissioner Jackson,
Aye.
Commissioner Russell,
Aye.
Commissioner Wagner,
Aye.
Commissioner Wright, Commissioner Parton, Chairman Spangle.
Aye.
So moved, sir.
And it passes. Thank you. And thank you all that have shown up in front of the commissioners. We appreciate you taking time and we'll move on. I think, Mr. Director, you have something you want to
Yeah.
discuss?
There are a couple of people on there that didn't have business, and I want to ask if anybody had business that they thought they were to appear for. See
Is-
Sheriff Rhodes is on there.
Is there anybody else on here that would like to speak to the commission?
Mr. Commissioner and Commissioner, this is Sheriff Rhodes.
Yes, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
I had just joined, I had talked with Chief Faulkner earlier and she said there may be some discussion today on some of the guidelines that was coming from the governor's office reference inclusion in the in-service training. And that's all.
I can certainly discuss it. We didn't have it as an agenda item, but the next, in 2 weeks, I'm going to address the Training Officers Association. I was not able to get on the Sheriff's Association agenda. I did address the Chiefs Association meeting a couple of weeks ago regarding the new requirements. The Post Commission has previously approved our issuing an administrative waiver for an additional 10 hours of training within the 40 hours of in-service. And that will have a couple of subjects required per the Governor's Task Force on Law Enforcement Reform recommendations. And we will outline those in an advisory letter that will go out next month after being run through the Chiefs and Sheriffs Association. But I think in particular, most of the concern or questioning is the 4 hours of community immersion. And there will be some guidelines issued on that. There are many programs out there, and Post is going to publish a list of a non-exclusive list of programs that are acceptable, but then also a list of criteria to go by. And it's very much been the desire of the working groups and of the commissioners that I've consulted with to have the executive have a large say in what is acceptable. But it's basically involvement in community programs or projects or with community members within the agency's jurisdiction and interaction with people that we don't normally interact with. And instead of sitting in a classroom for 4 hours having instruction, there will be 4 hours of community involvement required by this administrative mandate coming up. The rest is classroom issues that many people have already started working on, but there will be a series of train the trainers in 2 weeks for a majority of the agencies to be exposed to. So that's it in a nutshell. Sheriff, do you have other questions?
And thank you for the heads up. Thank you.
Okay. I will discuss this with the sheriffs at the December meeting. I'm on the agenda there, and I'll show you the workings of what's new out of that governor's recommendation report. Is pretty straightforward, and it was well received. I'm getting a real good response from the chiefs, from the municipal departments that are interacting with the NDI and such. While we're on that subject, 2 days ago, surprise, surprise, Post was named by the Department of Justice and the COPS office as a certifying agency to respond and approve to applications from every agency in this state in response to the president's executive order. It's very straightforward. There are 2 policies similar to the exercise that the sheriffs and chiefs went through on our use of force policy and duty to intervene policy. The president's executive order requires any applicant for federal funds to be certified by either the state accreditation agency, of which we have one associated with the Chiefs Association, or the Post Commission. Going into it, I thought the certification by the Post Commission were only going to be done in the 16 states that didn't have an accreditation program. But what DOJ published 2 days ago was the accrediting agency and the Post Commission in each state. So we will administer that similar to what the process, I guess, the TACP accreditation program will undertake. There is with my IADLEST hat, we have obtained a computer program for those 16 states that whose post commissions have to undertake this process. We did a national survey of all the post directors, and not many post commissions, maybe one post commission has policy review as a function. We don't. We issue model policies sometimes, but we don't review. So the IADLEST has put together a review program that we will utilize, like those 16 states, and we will have an attorney assigned to the policy review. That all came, as we all get, the unfunded surprise in the mail. So, and then finally, anybody have any questions on that? That was related to law enforcement reform. Nothing mandatory. The two policies, by the way, that everyone has to have certified for federal money from DOJ is duty to intervene and not having a chokehold or having a prohibited chokehold policy. Similar to what was recommended in Tennessee, which was duty to intervene and use of force review. So we're having to do that twice. OCJP in the state is requiring everybody to have their policies reviewed in the exercise that we just went through, and now this is a new one from Washington.
Director Grisham.
Yes, go ahead.
Reading my email here, there's as far as the independent credentialing bodies, I'm showing that the Tennessee Association of Chiefs of Police are one entity, and of course the Law Enforcement Accreditation, and of course the Tennessee Post Commission. If there's agencies that decide to have the associations of police chiefs do this, is it going to be the same standard that, say, we will have as this board? And the same with, the three independents. Are they all going to be the same, or we're going to try to unify this and kind of get it streamlined? And the second part is a lot of us sheriff's departments have, of course, went ahead through the Sheriff's Association, and we've reviewed our policies, and we've submitted this to the Sheriff's Association, which has been, I think, sent forward to the governor's office. Will the Post Commission accept those reviews that have already been looked at in the last few months or weeks? If what say that the Executive Director Bledsoe has, would that be transferable to the Post Commission?
To the extent of the duty to intervene policy, I would think so. If we can get access to that review, there is a separate criteria list that was published with this DOJ list. So both our state and the feds were undergoing a similar exercise at the same time. And it's a shame it wasn't, all one thing, but there is a different policy to be reviewed in the federal request. And that's, do you prohibit chokeholds in your policy? So to that extent, I would think we could try to work it out. Your first question was, is it going to be similar review? DOJ, COPS office published a criteria list. So I would think they would do the same. I will undertake a dialogue with TACP and see if we're going to use the same computer program, or see if they have something. The guidance from COPS said they wanted us to have the same response.
They want us to be similar, so therefore you don't get two different credentialing come out of one state, so they want them to be the same.
So we'll have to come up with, one answer, regardless of who you ask for that answer. But I would think we should accept the use of force review. Not the use of force, the duty to intervene review, because it's already been undertaken. Do you know of any, were the guidelines very specific on?
No, sir, it just said that they had to be reviewed, and that information had to be in there, those two specific policies. However, it didn't say the guidelines to it, but it just said that those two specifically had to be reviewed.
Okay, if it's just that they've been reviewed, we can say that the review that was already undertaken on duty to intervene has been satisfied. And I'm sure Department of Safety will allow access to who has done that. I hope that answers your questions. This is brand new, and I know that we're getting that computer program for free, and I'll have to dedicate some personnel to it, to the review. It's got to be done in 3 months, and it's going to have to be done every 3 years thereafter.
A lot of that information, sir, is
I think, I think that going back, if I recall, we did go over the use of force and of course the chokehold, and I was looking at a lot of the parameters and prongs, warning shots and stuff like that was all included back weeks ago. Sheriff Rhodes and Sheriff Spangler might be able to elaborate on that, but I think a lot of this has already been addressed I know as far as on the sheriff's side of the fence. I was just hoping that a lot of this could be adopted from the database in which the sheriffs have already submitted to, and maybe be a time saving for you and your staff if they're going to do these reviews. And even from the police chief side, I don't know if they did the same kind of program that we did, but I think for those that were participating in it, I think it would be a time saving matter. It's we're going over again just to satisfy the federal requirement.
Well, we will look into that and see if there's any way to do that. The last item that I have to bring to you, due to the COVID protocol that we have, knock on wood, we're halfway through our second basic post-COVID, and so far so good, but it's absolutely tapped all of our physical resources here to physically house the basic program, and it limits the specialized housing that we can do in order to space both classroom and dormitory space. We don't need any more than 2 recruits per room, and it has limited our ability to house the transition school. Previous post commission on the creation of the transition school wanted a residential 3-week transition school here at TLETA, so that we could assess the quality of the recruits that are coming from other states or those that are coming back into law enforcement after a 5 to 10 year break in service. We were only able in what would have been a normal transition school, our normal fall transition school of 50 to 60 people, we were only able to house 25 here due to COVID protocol. Plus, they were subjected to staying here the entire time and not having town leave or not being able to commute as we have been allowing to happen. So we, one, have COVID. 2, we have veteran officers who felt very displaced by that and actually just quite honestly became a distraction to our basic recruit program. I am asking permission for at least during the COVID period for us to translate our transition school to a virtual product. And my plans are for all of the elements in the transition school that are in our basic recruit school in January to be electronically videotaped or videoed and put in a V Academy format. With our current contract with V Academy, I think we can do that. The good side of this is we have less taxing on our facility, and we can process more transition school students as they need to be educated. They would take the majority of the transition school online, and then they would attend the academy for a 3-day period and demonstrate their physical skills, and then take a proctored post test by our post investigators. That way, if they haven't watched the instructional material, they'll flunk the post exam like they used to when they took the challenge exam. So at least for the interim period, or at least to see how it works, I'm asking approval for this to take place, and then we can schedule very easily these individuals to come in for a 3-day period and be evaluated that way. We don't get to know them. We don't get to see what kind of attitudes they have and all of that. That's the downside. And distance training is not as effective as face-to-face, and I'm gonna always believe that. But I think it's a necessity. Another positive out of this will give us a product that we can publish as available for agencies that don't have their own part-time, temporary, reserve schools. We can require this for their basic, that furtive 120-hour basic that we require part-time, temporary, and reserve officers, and we leave up to the agencies. We could market this as what Post wants, and that way they're at least getting the legal instruction from the Tennessee Law Enforcement Training Academy instructors, and they're being tested on it. So I'll answer any questions before you approve or disapprove what I'm asking.
How many slots have you got slated for January?
You approved 10 today, and we didn't accommodate 25, I think. So maybe.
So you're looking somewhere around 35?
Oh, in March. January, we're going to have 120 people in basic.
But you're asking to do virtual just on the transition school.
Just on a transition school.
And that the next one is in March, not.
It's in March.
January, correct.
But once we get this product, they could take it whenever they wanted to they're just gonna have to retain the information until they can attend their scheduled test.
This is Forrester. The only question I have is, will there be an instructor available to answer questions in a timely manner if students have them?
Absolutely. Now, I would want that, and we will make that part of the, we'll make that part of the video presentation, what number to call or what email addresses.
Okay.
Does anybody have any other questions?
This is Forrester. Got a motion to approve.
Second.
Commissioner Russell, were you wanting to ask a question?
Yeah, who pays for the transitional school and how much does it cost?
The transition school is, how much is it a week?
Oh,
Hold on.
I wasn't expecting that.
It's like but you think it is
We need different than
Okay.
$68 a day.
I guess my question is the virtual class going to be the same cost as the person class?
the plan is yes, because we're gonna have to pay V Academy for some overhead that we don't have here, but we're not feeding and housing the individuals. So I would imagine it would be about the same price. I want to say
I think it's $750 for 3 weeks.
$750. That sounds about right.
Bill.
I can do it if I can find my.
And if the local departments decide to send their people for the 120 hours, is it going to cost the same as the transitional school, or is it going to be a different price?
It may be a different price. It's somewhere between $700 and $800 for the transition school, judging from basic tuition. It's about $800, and we will have to pay the academy part of that, and then we'll actually have to feed them for 3 days and house them for 3 days. So it'd probably be about the same cost. I'm just not sure, but we try to recover a third of the actual cost of training here, and that's what we're charging per week. We're charging a local agency $275 a week, but we're actually spending close to $1,000 a week on them from state appropriation.
If you go to this virtual class, is
ahead.
person class still, or is it just?
I didn't hear the whole question. Can you repeat?
With this virtual class, are you going to have just totally virtual, or are you going to have a select few that can come down and do the in-person class?
It's all but 3 days of the class. It's a 12-day class, and all but 3 days will be virtual. They will have to come here and
Okay, I'm good.
Drive and qualify, and maybe some defensive tactics, and then take that proctored test. It's $825 to local, $975 for state officers.
Thank you, Commissioner Russell. Any other questions? Seeing none, then I'll entertain a motion.
So move.
We have a motion to approve by Commissioner Holsey and seconded by Commissioner Wagner. Roll call.
Commissioner Bello,
Aye.
Commissioner Cherry,
Aye.
Commissioner Dunbar,
Aye.
Commissioner Ferris, Commissioner Faulkner,
Aye.
Commissioner Forrester,
Aye.
Commissioner Halsey,
Aye.
Commissioner Jackson,
Aye.
Commissioner Russell,
Aye.
Commissioner Wagner,
Aye.
Commissioner Wright,
Aye.
Commissioner Pardon, Chairman Spangler.
Aye. And it passes. Thank you, Mr. Director. And I think that concludes our agenda at this time. Just real quick, I want to say thank you to everyone again for your patience. And I know it's still not the same as being in person with everyone. And I noticed that Mr. Underwood, his name is on there, but it doesn't look like him. So those of you that might know who that is, I'm not sure, we might want to take a look at him. So that's the first, I think, first meeting I can recall that we've not had anything said by Mr. Underwood. So have you got anything you'd like to end us with?
Mr. Chairman, it's my understanding that Director Grisham may have lost his father last week or week before. Is that right, Brian?
Yes.
Well, just want to let you know you're in our thoughts and prayers, and we're so sorry for your loss, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff, for that. We all concur, that's for sure. Mr. Underwood?
And thank you. And we are having a rulemaking hearing in December regarding some of the task force findings of increasing the hours. And our other rules are at the AG's office awaiting the Attorney General's signature for formal filing.
Joseph, when do we plan on the Rules Committee be meeting on that?
Well, we can meet, it's been set for the date for y'all to see the rulemaking hearing. Is basically the changes would be increasing from 480 hours to 488 hours. We're adding 8 hours, and the curriculum of training, there's the take of those extra 8 hours is a specified training, and I can let Director Grissom elaborate on what that would be at the basic course.
Will that be in person or virtual? Sorry.
Well, the governor has released another another executive order yesterday, I believe it was, that will extend meetings virtually through the end of the year. We can do it virtually. It'll be different. It'll be similar to this, but still be a rulemaking hearing and requiring, the same process will be very similar. So I expect to be virtual still.
Mr. Chair, I have something as well in lines with the task force.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Wright.
I sat on the task force for the post commission, and it was actually an honor to be able to do so. And there was one thing on there that I tried to bring up, and it never gained much momentum. And this is the rural communities, and I speak of this a lot. In trying to find out how we can get some of these smaller departments to report to posts that we have issues with. I know that this is one of the biggest things that post has is with these smaller departments. It always seems like it's their compliance, four officers or less typically, and trying to find a way, because it doesn't matter what we pass legislatively and what every officer in the state of Tennessee is doing. If there's one in a small department that we don't have any idea about and has not been through any of it, and they're involved in a deadly force issue, it's still going to be every officer in the state of Tennessee that pays for it. And it's just trying to come up with some ideas. I'm just kind of throw it at everybody maybe to think on it, of what kind of ideas we come up with to try to get more compliance out of these.
Thank you, Commissioner Wright.
I can speak a little bit to that. Pre-COVID, we were planning to ask for a budget improvement to get a couple of investigators and support staff and actually require reporting of all part-time, temporary, reserve, volunteer, any officer in our system, just like full-time officers. Until we get that compliance piece, all I can say is unless we audited every town, every little hamlet, every back road incorporated town, we don't know exactly how many part-time, temporary, reserve officers that are out there. There are whole departments that are made up of part-time officers, and that isn't even in compliance with state statute. Part-time officers are defined as supporting a full-time officer. So until we get the ability to do more than just audit when we get a complaint, that's going to subsist. And like I said, we were getting ready to ask for a budget improvement, and I've had some preliminary discussions with the governor's policy people about it. When you lost me, I lost you. When COVID happened, I turned my video off. When COVID happened, so obviously the time is not right for a budget improvement request. I think that's the solution, and just making each agency report those individuals and what their training is, have them in our system. We had begun with a couple of agencies, having them submit their part-time people just like the full-time as a test process. And there are many that have very robust training programs and make sure all those pre-employment requirements are met. But Commissioner Wright and I have discussed this offline very often. There seems to be just a lot of places I see patrol cars and I don't recognize the person that's driving them.
Well, I think it could still wind up in an issue that comes back and gets us, and hate for it to be a budget issue that winds up doing that, especially. And I know this COVID times is not the best. One thing I did bring up on the task force that never gained much momentum, and I know we got some sheriffs here on the commission as well, is all of these departments fall inside the 95 counties for sure. Is not necessarily for the sheriffs themselves to be responsible for those smaller departments, but maybe their GDI officers assisting those smaller agencies with 4 or less officers to make sure that they are in compliance. Because if that sheriff's department rose up in support of this small department and something happens and that officer is involved in something and the sheriff's department standing there, y'all know as well as I do that, the sheriff's department liability is just as great as if they were the ones. Either sheriff got any of our sheriffs got any comment to that?
Well, that Director Wright, yeah, I think you're correct in that statement. I fortunately in my county I don't have any of those smaller towns. I can't speak for Sheriff Spangler, but it's kind of, in my case, would kind of be revert back to the constable issue. Would kind of be the same kind of scenario, because as a sheriff, the constables are elected official just like I am, but we don't train them. They're not involved in our trainings and all. That's for liability reasons. If they come to our trainings and then something happens, and that liability will fall back on us. But yes, I understand. I don't know how receptive that would be across with other sheriff's departments, but I totally understand it. Sheriffs constitutionally are the chief law enforcement officer of the county, unless you talk to certain DAs. But yeah, that's probably something the legislature might have to even look at or bring up. But Sheriff Spangler might have more input on that than I do.
I don't think I have much to add to that. Obviously, I don't have any small counties, as was mentioned, surrounding me. So,
Well, It's just kind of food for thought for everybody. Just kind of put it out there and everybody to kind of think on and see if there might be a viable solution to come up with at some point.
Director Wright, I'll be happy. The sheriffs are meeting in a week or two here. Our legislative committee is going to be meeting and talking about the next list of issues and wish list, I guess you would say, for the next legislative session. I'll be more than happy to bring it up in that committee and just kind of mull it over and see what kind of response we get on that and report back to you if that'll help.
Thanks, Sheriff.
If we could tie it to COVID, we could maybe get a budget improvement now. Maybe Mr. Mines could do COVID tests when he's doing the investigations. I don't know.
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
But it's gonna get us one of these days. I hate to say, I guess there's 6,000 or 7,000 part-time officers out there. Wouldn't know unless we audited every agency.
Does anybody else have any other discussion?
I have one question before we go.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Holsey.
Thank you to the director. The mandate from the Department of Justice has been swirling around in my head a little bit. On the chokehold business, I'm assuming that would not apply if an officer has a right and justified in using deadly force anyway.
Yes,
Is that correct?
That's correct. Same with arterial restraints. You know, any weapon in a deadly force situation, any weapon at your hands is justified. If you're
okay, thank you.
Yeah, but in Tennessee, they're outlawed by state statute, 2 different state statutes anyway, so it's an easy review.
Commissioner Faulkner, did you have a question?
I did. I wondered if you could advise if there's a second basic school schedule.
I want to know if there was a second basics school scheduled.
We got one coming up in January.
Was there another one after that?
We'll keep going. We're planning one after, we're planning 4 next year. If something,
Thank you.
If something happens and it gets worse, our only alternative is to do like the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center is doing, and that is bring them here for 2 extra weeks to quarantine and they don't go home. We can do a basic in 9 straight weeks. So I'm gonna have to figure out how to feed them on the weekends. That's our fallback to keep the process going, and nobody wants to do that. So most of our recruits are very good about isolating on the weekends.
I know Blount County's having one in January, and then we're going to have one following that. Do you want me to say anything about that?
Sure.
Just in case, if you want to, Blount County is having an academy in January, and then Knox County, we will be having one right after that one. So sometime in March or April. We just haven't set the date on it. So at least you have a couple of choices out there.
They probably got an email.
Mr. Chairman, I've got one other thing I just kind of want to get on the record before we close.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
I'm getting a lot of calls amongst my peers and contact and on the inclusion matter. And I just ask that this board and our Director Grisham that we tread lightly with this issue, and let's really sit down and study on it. This is a very sensitive matter, and it can bite us either direction as law enforcement across the state. And the parts of the inclusion that I've been told, I haven't been privy to any detailed information, could set off, in my opinion, a firestorm from the opposite end of the spectrum. And I think as a sheriff, I would be irresponsible not to, you know, hold my position as a elected official in my county to not jeopardize my citizens, or particularly my staff, to subject them for what I consider a politically correct mandate. But anyway, that's all I'm asking, is that we really think hard and collectively of how we approach that. I hope
Thank you for
yeah,
that.
thank you.
Sheriff, on that was something that was brought up on the task force as well, that I brought up, was that this cannot be perceived on the law enforcement side as punishment. It's almost like we're be giving the officers community service type things, like they've done something wrong, so now you have to do this. And I think we kind of addressed a lot of those issues, and hopefully the director can kind of come up and help me out a little bit on this as well. I think that the way that we're wanting to do it, or with the way that we're trying to structure it, I think we're going to allow a lot of it to fall back on the sheriffs, the chiefs themselves. Even come up with your own program if it's something for kids. Just coming up with something that don't necessarily have to be something that's essentially like community service. And that was something that was brought up, that this does not have to, or is going to have to make sure that it's not perceived as punishment to the law enforcement officers, because it would be a big.
Yeah, it's traveling through the ranks of law enforcement. I know through the sheriff's side of the house is just, you know, there's some serious concerns and maybe some misinformation that may be floating around. But, you know, I understand. I know that the task force has the best intentions for all of us. But we, like I said, I just want us to make sure that we tread lightly and make sure that we convey exactly what you've said, and that there's, you know, a lot of clarity as to how in depth this may go. And I know that that all the folks involved in that, I know have law enforcement's best interest at hand. I just want to do something that even me and the chairman could do to maybe quell some of the concerns through our counterparts. And I'm sure the police chiefs will have that same issue.
I'm going to take the same approach and say that we're going to lean on the executive to determine what is good for your officers, what's good for the community, what's available in your community. I'm responsible for 17 commissioned officers. We are going to build a habitat house. That is going to be our 4 hours of community service. It's going to be 8 hours of community service. And I'm going to pay them for the time that I would have them in a training school to go interact with somebody that needs a leg up. We were going to do our usual Shrine Hospital drive and attend the party, but due to COVID, we can't do that thing for the kids. Many executives already have programs like that. Metro Nashville has a wonderful program where when an officer identifies at-risk household, they feed that household. And the officers take their own time to go deliver food to them. And that's the kind of thing we're looking at. That they would get credit for that, post credit for that. And there's going to be a list of guidelines published to seek something out. You can just go to Volunteer Tennessee website. Like a club or a group or a business can go to the Volunteer Tennessee website and say, we're in this county, and what team activities, what team availabilities are out there. Some of them aren't appropriate for this, but some of them are, hey, they're going to rebuild a playground down in this government housing project. They're going to rebuild a playground. We need volunteers to do this, and you can sign your whole team up for that. And so all we're asking is, instead of having them in the classroom for 4 hours, you're paying them to interact with their community in some way you deem appropriate. And we'll be very fair about our evaluation of it. And this is a lot thrown at our investigators to approve these. We're going to ask for them to be approved and to somehow document that it's been done.
Director, I think one thing too that we need to try to do is I don't know what the right term would be, but it's even like what you used a while ago, that you're 17 are going to do community service at the Habitat House. It's not community. It is community service, but community service in the law enforcement world is a punishment, as we all know. So I don't know really what word. I know we were using community immersion.
Yes.
Or if there's any other good names that we might be able to use.
I think your term you would want to look at is something on the means of like community building, or something of that line. But yes, Director Wright, it's when you mention public service to us law enforcement officials, it sounds like we're out. We're going to be in jumpsuits with our can grabbers and picking up trash, which I do pretty often anyway. But through the rank and file of the sheriffs, it's come to me a little bit with some concerns, knowing that I sit on this board at the will of the governor. But there's a lot of talk of religious affiliations and things of that nature, and I wanted us to have some clarity on that, and so that we could quell some of this information. And I know that there'll be discussions of that next week, and I want to help calm the storm a little bit, if that's possible.
That's one of the inclusions that, nobody's going to require somebody to go to a particular religious function. That would be violative of rights, but that's one of the criteria. Interacting, face-to-face interaction with cultures, races, religions that you don't normally associate with. It doesn't mean you have to do that. It means that if you choose that, I'm going to go to the Sikh temple and learn how they operate, learn what they do, go to their community event and see and interact with them. That would be acceptable and appropriate. But I'm not going to make one of my commission people do that. We're going to cheat. I'm going to give them a list to go by.
Totally understand, and the way this is being presented is a voluntary basis to, if for curiosity to learn. And yes, I totally understand that. And just when they hear the word mandates here of recent, it kind of there's a lot being thrown at us. And but yes, I understand. It sounds like things are good direction.
Going the administrative route is the way to do it, rather than having more statutory mandates. We already have 11 hours each year. So, the commitment is to do this for 3 years and see where we stand.
No, the kind of the one I used on the task force was talking to one of our local sheriffs here, talking about when he usually pulls into the projects area, the low income area, the kids used to chase him down in the patrol car, come up to him because he always carried candy in his car and was always happy to see him. And he said nowadays when he pulls in, those same age group kids are yelling obscenities and giving signs and this and that. So we don't even go into those communities as much as we used to. And for this to work and for this to change, I think what everybody going to have to wrap their hand around is it has to change on the law enforcement side, because it's not going to change on the community side. The perception of the community is not going to change until the law enforcement works its direction to change it.
I totally concur, and I'm a product of the Clinton administration COPS FAST grant of community policing. That's how the funding that hired me in as a deputy sheriff many years ago, and I think this is kind of the community organizational type stuff of helping recognize areas that need street lights and their garbage picked up and just that kind of stuff. But yes, I understand where you're going with that.
All right. Thank you, commissioners. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. I'll take an all aye on this one.
Aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you all again.